I'm so happy today because for the first time I can actually hear Jerry reading the readings. I could understand every word that he said because Friday I got a hearing aid. It's amazing. I've been putting it off for over a year because of the expense, very, very expensive. But I finally gave in and went to see a hearing doctor the other day. It was amazing how he gave me a demo. He ordered 2 hearing aids because my both ears need them. And it's just amazing when I put it in. What's really amazing is that he put an app on my cell phone, and from the cell phone, I can adjust it. So it comes up in there, if I'm in a restaurant and there's a lot of noise, I can push a button for restaurant, and then I can hear everything. It'll block out background noise. It's amazing. So if you see me take my cell phone out during Mass, I'm not checking my emails. So as soon as I get the other one, then I'm still trying to figure out how to adjust it, but it's a great blessing. And the good news is, was looking at about $10,000 in cost and found out that just recently my insurance company, or my supplemental insurance to my Medicare, covers hearing aids. So that was a real blessing. That it's being paid for by them. I have to pay a little bit, but not $10,000. So I guess hearing is worth $10,000. I don't know, but I certainly didn't have that. You may remember some years ago, the movie Ben-Hur, and it was about Judah. Ben-Hur was the man's name. He was a Jewish man from Jerusalem. He enjoyed prestige and honor and position, even though the Romans were occupying Jerusalem at the time. He had a privilege, but he lost that privilege. And his wife and daughter were thrown into a dungeon where both of them contracted leprosy. And he was put together with the galley slaves to do slave labor. They were walking one day to their doom, actually. And they stopped at a small village, all of these slaves, including Ben-Hur. And a young man who seemed strong and kind gave Ben-Hur a cup of water to drink. And Ben-Hur looked up into his eyes, and he was looking into the eyes of Jesus of Nazareth. Some time went by, and Ben-Hur regained his position in Jerusalem, and he went back to the family home. And one day, there was a lot of noise in the street as a crowd was ushering a man carrying a cross to his execution. And Ben-Hur just watched as this man was struggling, could hardly walk anymore. And when he fell, Ben-Hur went forward to help him to get up. And when he looked into the eyes of the man, he was then seeing those same eyes of Jesus of Nazareth. He had never forgot the cup of water that he received from him. Ben-Hur was rewarded because as the man passed by the shadow of the cross, came upon 2 leper women who were his mother and sister, and they were both cured. Ben-Hur's good deed, Jesus' good deed of a cup of water, taught him about generosity and compassion. And he extended it. When he extended it again, literally, he extended it to Jesus. The message of the gospel today is, if you give just a cup of water to someone who's thirsty because they belong to Christ, you will not be without your reward. Just a cup of water. The smallest thing that we do in the name of Christ has its reward for us. The smallest evil that we do has the contrary consequence for us. So what the gospel is saying is that we must root out evil and do good. Jesus gets very strong in his using hyperbole in the gospel today, where he's emphasizing the fact, if your hand is the cause of your sin, cut it off. He doesn't really mean that literally. He's trying to be extremely emphatic. Whatever causes us to sin, we should get rid of in our life. Whatever it is that might be leading us into sin, we should get rid of that. If we all had to cut off some part of our body, we'd be all walking around maimed, probably. But Jesus is just making a strong point that the good deed, even the smallest one, has its reward. And the evil deed, even the smallest one, has its evil consequences. And so for us, we take that to heart today and say, all right, Lord, just open my eyes and open my ears and open my heart so that I can be aware of those who are in need and help in whatever way I can. We look at, like on the front page of the Plain Dealer today, yesterday in Indonesia, over 500 people were killed in an earthquake and a terrible tsunami that hit the islands of Indonesia. It makes you want to go out and help, but you feel helpless. What we need to do is pray for those people who are suffering from that. Prayer has brought about greater things than we can even begin to imagine. And so we pray when we see a thing, when we see someone in need. And then if we run into somebody that's in need, not to hesitate. St. Vincent de Paul says, don't judge the person because they're in need, but help them. If someone's hungry, give them food. You do that with the St. Vincent de Paul Society and with the Hunger Center. Every offering you make, you're giving food to those who need it. And Jesus will never, ever forget that kindness. When you sing in the choir, when you bring communion, distribute communion at church, or extraordinary ministers who take communion to the sick in our parish and the homebound. They're doing it for Christ, literally taking Christ to people. There's many opportunities in the parish to do good things. The Legion of Mary does good apostolic work. Consider joining. When we talk about prayer on Thursday nights, we expose the Blessed Sacrament after Mass for an hour, just to come and spend time at the feet of Jesus before the Blessed Sacrament can have great effect in your personal spiritual life and can affect the whole parish because you're a member here and you're praying. So that Jesus is saying today that don't underestimate the good we can do. Sometimes we're overwhelmed by the need, but we have to just do what's in front of us. And if we all do that, then we see that good gets multiplied. The smallest act, good thing we do, if 500 people do it, we're multiplying that good work. So we're a part of a great community that we call the church, and the church is Christ, and we are Christ in the church. And so we ask the Lord to help us to recognize the need of others and to do it with compassion as Jesus taught us.